okay? So let me just stream this. And just a second. There you are. We're ready. Okay. So let me share my screen. Awesome. So dear students, as I told you, today we are going to practice last time, okay, one last time for the writing section, task number 1. And I am sending right now to the WhatsApp group some links, okay, for you to get into. And these links are going to be Google Documents where you're going to be able to write down your essay. And I'm going to be able to review them. Okay, so just give me a second. I'm sending them. Right, there I am. 1, 2, 3. How many are we? We are right now. Okay, we are 6. Very good. 7, 3. All right. Very good. So, dear students, if you look at your WhatsApp group right now, you're going to discover that I just sent different links, right? Some of them, well, all of them actually have a little remark there that says first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. The reason why I sent this is because all of these links, I want to take you to a Google document. And each of you is going to have one link. And if you open it, you're going to be directed to, as I say, a Google document. And here is where you're going to write down your essay, okay, in real time, so that when you finish, I'm going to be able to review it also in real time. Okay, we're not going to have to download and stuff like that. So as I say, when you get into your Google document in order to write down your essay, go scroll down a little bit, go up to the last page, okay? And here you're going to start writing, okay? To all of you, when I assign you what Google document you're going to have, okay? Before we do that, you know that for this task, we need to read a passage, and then we have to listen a lecture on this same topic. So that is exactly what we're going to be doing right now. We're going to read, okay? This is going to be the reading passage. We have discussed this on class, okay? So you know what to do. You have to read this passage, and you're going to have 3 minutes to do it. So I'm pasting it right now to the chat box. Well, not to the chat box, in this case, to the WhatsApp group, because the chat box is not able to tolerate the extension of this passage. So please go to the WhatsApp group. And here on my screen, you already have your 3 minutes program, because how many time you have for reading this? You have how much time, excuse me, how much time you have for reading this? You have 3 minutes, okay? So as you can see, the passage is already there. It's already in the WhatsApp group. So please, all of you dear students, start reading this passage. And after we finalize, we're going to listen to the lecture, and then all of you are going to start writing down your essays, okay? So please, all of you start, as I say, reading this passage that is in the WhatsApp group now. Very good. Well, as you can see, your time is over. Okay, 3 minutes have already happened. So it's time for us to listen to the lecture on the same topic. Okay, and remember that this lecture, although it's going to be about the same topic, of course, in this case, you have read this passage that is about inventors in the U.S., right, and European, about the modern war as well. You're gonna notice that in this case, although the lecture is gonna be about the same topic, the perspective that the professor is going to offer you is going to be completely different. And that is, of course, very good because remember in your essay, as we have practiced and learned in the previous classes, you have to use the structure we have discussed in order to make that particular contradiction and opposition evident in your essay by using contrasting abilities and structures, right? And well, we have learned how to do it. You have the structure there. I'm gonna resend it if you want. Maybe for those of you who were wondering what is the structure, here you have it. But let's listen to this lecture anyways, okay? Let's go and listen to the lecture on the same topic. Take your notes, don't worry. And don't worry, don't forget.
Now listen to part of a lecture on the topic you just read about.
It's certainly possible that the US and Europe get more credit than they should for creativity and innovation, but the examples from the reading, they just don't support that argument. The reading chooses inventions that really were new. The earlier examples cited were not all the same as the more modern versions whose inventors are so well known today. For starters, take the example of the camera. The reading says that's the biggest example, but nobody could take an actual photograph until Louis Daguerre's invention. Sure, even Al Haytham's pinhole device could project a photographic image onto a wall, and yes, Daguerre used a pinhole projector building off Al Haytham's discovery, but Daguerre used that projector in a completely new machine that let people easily take and print photos, while the earlier pinhole camera was not able to produce or print anything. So, the modern camera really is a European invention. Next, we can look at Alberto Santos Dumont, the Brazilian. Now, he did invent a flying machine that had a motor and could be steered. What the reading doesn't mention is that Santos Dumont's flying machine was a hydrogen balloon, not an airplane. This kind of flying machine turned out to not be very practical. It took up a lot of space and, blew up sometimes. Hydrogen catches fire really easily. The Wright brothers made the truly modern invention, the safe, space-efficient airplane. Finally, we'll look at firearms. The early Chinese hand cannons were innovative but impractical, just like the ancient pinhole camera and the helium balloon. Hand cannons were huge, had to be handled by 2 people, and they couldn't be aimed very well at all. The innovations that came about later made handheld firearms, well, usable, especially in battle. It is true that the European guns had the same essential features as the old Chinese hand cannons, but really, European firearms were a whole new weapon design, one that could be used reliably and by a single soldier, and that's really what the technology was about in the first place.
Awesome, there you are. Well, so as you can see, the reading passage will offer you a very much negative perspective with regard to the, let's say, to the self-appropriation of America and Europe of different inventions and how this particular self-appropriation has generated some controversy and also, of course, some disregard for other cultures. And here the professor makes a defense actually of the US and Europe as sons in the war that have developed this technology and that are certainly important and worthy to be regarded as the most important innovative sons, right? Well, so in your summary, remember, in your essay, summarize both topics. You know how to do that. You have a template right there. So let's start with the writing. So the first link, okay, the first Google document, remember that all these links take you to a different Google document. So the ones that says first, okay, this one, dear Jorge, is going to be for you. The first Google document that says first is yours, okay, so please you can get into it. Adriana, dear Adriana, you're going to have the second link, the one that says second group, okay, so you can just get into, and as I said, you can scroll down until the last page to make yourself some space. And there's where you're going to write down, okay, something like this. You scroll down until the end. And as I say, well, you write down your essay there. Second, there, something like this. Right here, you write down your essay, right? You just yeah, like that. You scroll down your page. Well, the third one is going to be for Fabiana. Okay, dear Fabiana. The one that says third group, this link here is yours. So please you can get into, and as I say, scroll down until the last page, and there you can write down your essay. All right. And finally, Miguel Paulson, you're gonna have the fourth link. Okay, the one that says fourth. This is yours, and you can use it in order to, as I say, write down your essay. Okay. And Sergio, I see that you have you had some troubles to listen the passage. You're going to stay here with me, okay? You're going to listen with me one more time. But the rest of you, dear students, Jorge, Adriana, and Fabiana, and Miguel, I'm going to send you right now to separate rooms, okay? Just in case something like this happens, like there is somebody else who gets into, I'm going to have to explain this again, so I don't want to deconcentrate you. So I'm going to send you, okay, to all of you, to separate rooms for yourself. And there you're going to write down your essay, okay, quietly, without nobody bothering you. And well, once you get into your breakout rooms, start writing, okay? Because once you get into, I'm going to start a chronometer and you are going to be able to see it actually, okay? You're going to be able to see the chronometer because I'm going to share my screen with you. And even when you are in your breakout room, you're going to be able to see my screen and the chronometer is going to be there, okay? Fantastic. So please, as I say, all of you get into your breakout rooms, and when you get into, start writing, all right? Except Sergio, you stay with me, okay? Because I need to show you the lecture before you go and write. But please, the rest of you, dear students, go to your separate rooms and start writing, okay? Great, so you can go. I have invited you to your breakout rooms, okay? So then I see you later and I call you back. All right. All right, great, Sergio. There you are. So let's start, okay? I'm gonna let you listen the lecture one more time, all right? Because I knew that you had some troubles, okay, with the listening. So please, dear Sergio, are you ready to listen one more time to the lecture? Yes?
Yes, Carlos. Thank you very much.
No, my pleasure. Okay, so please start listening now.
Now listen to part of a lecture on the topic you just read about.
It's certainly possible that the US and Europe get more credit than they should for creativity and innovation, but the examples from the reading, they just don't support that argument. The reading chooses inventions that really were new. The earlier examples cited were not all the same as the more modern versions whose inventors are so well known today. For starters, take the example of the camera. The reading says that's the biggest example, but nobody could take an actual photograph until Louis Daguerre's invention. Sure, Ibn al-Haytham's pinhole device could project a photographic image onto a wall, and yes, Daguerre used a pinhole projector building off al-Haytham's discovery. But Daguerre used that projector in a completely new machine that let people easily take and print photos, while the earlier pinhole camera was not able to produce or print anything. So, the modern camera really is a European invention. Next, we can look at Alberto Santos Dumont, the Brazilian. Now, he did invent a flying machine that had a motor and could be steered. What the reading doesn't mention is that Santos Dumont's flying machine was a hydrogen balloon, not an airplane. This kind of flying machine turned out to not be very practical. It took up a lot of space and, blew up sometimes. Hydrogen catches fire really easily. The Wright brothers made the truly modern invention, the safe, space-efficient airplane. Finally, we'll look at firearms. The early Chinese hand cannons were innovative but impractical, just like the ancient pinhole camera and the helium balloon. Hand cannons were huge, had to be handled by 2 people, and they couldn't be aimed very well at all. The innovations that came about later made handheld firearms, well, usable, especially in battle. It is true that the European guns had the same essential features as the old Chinese hand cannons, but really, European firearms were a whole new weapon design, one that could be used reliably and by a single soldier, and that's really what the technology was about in the first place.
Well, there you are, dear Sergio. All right. So now you're able to write down your essay. Okay. So I'm going to invite you to the separate room. Okay. And once you get into, you can just, as I say, start writing down um, your essay. Okay.
I'm sorry, Carlos. What number
Yeah.
I am into? The fourth?
Let me see. In order to avoid confusions, would you like to have the number 8, dear Sergio? Because nobody got that one. Yes, the number 8. Is that fine for you?
Yes, it is okay.
Fantastic. So what it is that I'm not able to re-invite you to the room, so you can just stay here. Okay, I'm not gonna make any noise. And if you need some help, you tell me. All right. So please start writing down your essay, dear Sergio.
Thank you very much.
All right, my pleasure. Okay, great. So I think that all of you have come back, and well, thank you very much, okay, for your essays. I was actually watching how you worked here through the Google Documents. All right. And as I said, well, let us start then with the feedback, and let's go straight with the first essay. If I'm not wrong, the first essay belongs to Sergio. Okay, so let's go and see what Sergio did. All right, let's read this. It says, the reading passage leads off with the idea that inventors from the United States and Europe are more often than not more accredited for inventions than people from other countries. However, the lecturer points out that inventors in the US and Europe created a more modern and efficient invention than those in other countries. With the following examples, I will be explaining both points of view. Fantastic. Here, the only thing would be right at the end of the transition phrase, 2 points. Apart from that, great. Firstly, in the reading passage, we are presented with the invention of the modern firearm and how it is credited, to the European armies, while the Chinese had a version of the firearm called hand cannons. On the other hand, the lecture makes the argument that the original Chinese version was extremely inefficient and couldn't be used in modern warfare, unlike the European version. Awesome. Second paragraph. Secondly, the reading passage references how the Wright brothers are the only credited with the invention of modern flying machines, while the first flying machine was invented in Brazil by Alberto Santos Dumont. Very good. Nonetheless, the lecturer argues that the invention by Santos Dumont was actually the hydrogen balloon that wasn't even comparable to the modern airplane due to it being very big and could catch fire very easily. Okay, in this case, I guess that the comma is not necessary because as you are using that, like it becomes a connector in this case. It becomes a connector, and all the sentence will be just one idea, right? But I mean, of course, it is not a scene. Let's say it's just maybe a matter of orthodoxy. But apart from that, fantastic. Lastly, the reading passage presents the example of the camera and how it's always credited to the French inventor Louis Daguerre, while the inventor of the basis of the camera is an Iranian named here, of course, with capital letter, right? Preferable. Named Al-Haytham with a Pinot camera. Nevertheless, the lecture mentions that Daguerre invented the modern camera and printed photos mechanism, while the Iranian pinhole camera was the prototype that Daguerre used. It could only project images and not print them like all modern cameras do. Awesome. Let's see how many words you wrote, dear Jorge. We have in total 276 words. Fantastic. So, as I say, very good, dear Jorge. Fantastic introduction, and the paragraphs follow the structure and not mentioning your opinion, but leave it to yourself to summarize both topics. Good grammar, good vocabulary. Fantastic. Okay, congratulations, Jorge. Very good. Let's continue. Who is the author of the second essay, dear students? Could you please say your name?
It's me, Adriana.
Okay, thank you very much, dear Adriana. Fantastic. Let's go. The main topic related to the reading passage is about the recognition given to the US and European inventors, excuse me. In this case, it's a period, right? Because you are finalizing here a sentence. I guess it was just a blunder, but whenever you finalize an idea, right? You close the sentence with a period and you can start a new one. It is important to mention that the reading passage mentioned that many of these inventions, here plural, were already developed for another culture many years before, and with the new technologies developed during those years is that the new inventions develop here. Yeah. During those years is that the new inventions appear. In contradiction, the listening pass. Okay, so in this as you're using here in contradiction, that is a connector, is good. You can use it. Here, don't forget comma, right? Because connectors, doesn't matter what connector is it, always goes, as I told you, after a period, very good, and before a comma, okay? So in contradiction also falls down into that category. In contradiction, comma, the listening passage is about the significance and importance of the new creations and evolution of the inventions of the US and European people. Good. During this essay, I will give examples of these 2 points of discussion and the possible conclusions. All right. Very good. The only thing here, 2 points, right? As I told you, but apart from that, fantastic. Very good here. Adriana, first of all, the reading passage refers to the false or incorrect credit that the US and European inventors were given related to the inventions they have created. This is because many of the creations they have developed, here developed, right, with developed, as you're using the present perfect, right, developed or increased in some way, increased, right? Yeah. Sorry. Already existed and were created many years ago. So here, for example, is a connector. So remember, how do you use a connector? You use it after a period with capital letter and before a comma, right? Any connector, capital letter, after a period and before a comma. For example, the firearms were created for the Chinese army. I guess it's by the Chinese army, right? By the Chinese army. Por el ejército chino, by the Chinese army. But these arms were restructured many years before. In connection with the listening passage, we have the same example with the firearms, and they mentioned that the modifications and improvement given by the US again, by, por los Estados Unidos, by the US, by me, by you, por ti, I mean, right? When you, for example, listen to a song, right? The scientists, by Coldplay, right? Por Coldplay, right? By the US and European people were really, in this case, were really necessary and useful for the war. Very good. So the first paragraph is very good as well. Summarizing both passages, right? Very good. Secondly, the reading passage mentioned as an example the creation of the photograph camera, inferring that the creation didn't belong to the Frenchman. Instead, okay, here this is another connector, right? So remember how? After a period and before a comma, right? M, capital letter. This creation belongs to an Iranian who figured it out 10 years before. In that regard, the listening passage confirms that the invention belongs to the Frenchman, because the Iranian invention could not print the images, but the French camera has this ability and was very useful for that time in history. Fantastic. This is a very good paragraph. And in conclusion, we can say, in this case, we can say that the reading and the listening passage mention very important inventions that were created. Okay, and you didn't finalize. Okay, very good. Let's see how many
I
words.
couldn't finish. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. As I said, we are practicing, and trust me that it is actually very much possible to improve this part. And especially in your case, as you had a lot of words, let's see how. Well, 285. I would say that it's actually not necessary to include a conclusion, right? As I told you. But anyways, right? If you want to include a conclusion, it's fine. Okay. But apart from that, fantastic, dear John. Very good. Okay. Very, very good. Let's continue. Third essay. Who's the author of this one, dear students? Third essay.
Me, Fabian.
Okay, thank you very much, Fabiana. Let's go. In this reading, we talked about how we almost always attribute all technological inventions to the US and the Europeans, when in fact they could have existed many years ago, and I will expose both about the points that are touched in the reading. Okay, this is fun, although it's not the structure or the template follow exactly as it was presented in the classes. It's fun. As I say, it remains with the general idea. And remember, transition phrase, 2 points or column. Okay. Very good. Let's continue. Firstly, in the reading passage, we can highlight one of the most important inventions, camera, which is attributed to Europeans, especially Louis Daguerre. But this is not true because the pinhole camera was developed in the West by this man, right? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. This is fun. Nonetheless, I would recommend you, instead of, for example, this is, if you think about it, it's a very long sentence. And that is the reason why I told you, right? It is great if you follow the structure just as we gave it to you, because the structure as it is designed prevents you from writing very long sentences, and also gives you the adequate framework for you to make contrast, right, between these topics. So instead of writing this super long sentence, I would just simply say, all right, period, and nevertheless, right, it is not true because and you continue, right? As I say, whenever you can make shorter sentences in English, it's fine, because in writing for American English and for British English, it's preferable to write down short sentences. Okay, very good. It was a very good paragraph anyways. Secondly, in the reading excerpt, it is pointed out that it talks about, okay, it is pointed out, here I guess it talks about is unnecessary, pointed out that firearms, which are attributed to European armies, okay, are not actually true, I guess, in the reading, by the way, here, a comma. In the reading excerpt is pointed out that firearms, okay, I'm going to delete that. Talks about firearms which are attributed to European armies. But what is true is that 600 years ago, the Chinese armies were already using this type of firearms called hand cannons. Okay, good. Again, I think it's too long, the sentence. I would recommend you, dear Fabiana, to make shorter sentences and to divide them whenever you can. Okay, for example, you could here, for example, right? Nonetheless, what is true is that 600 years ago, etc., right? So as I say, whenever you can shorten your sentences through connectors, better. On the other hand, remember that commas always go attached to the word, right? On the other hand, there is the case of the airplane, which is believed to have been invented by Americans, but in reality was a Brazilian named Alberto Santos, okay? Finally, we can point that historically, the rest of the world also influences in terms of technological inventions, and we will not realize how they have affected us today. We need to learn more about history and our origins. Okay, here, dear Fabiana, I would say this is fantastic. Okay, it's a very good essay until this point. So my commentary will be with regard to this part. Remember that the last paragraph, as we saw it in the structure, right, merely continues summarizing what you have seen in the reading and the listening. Apart from that, you can include a conclusion if you want. But remember that in this essay, you have to avoid giving your opinion. And in this case, it seems to me that you are giving your opinion here because you say, we need to learn more about history in our origins, right? And remember, this is not a good moment for you to give your opinion. And trust me that there is a moment later on during these essays where you can write down your opinion. But for now, for the first task, not allowed, okay? So please try to, when you write a conclusion, to make it more objective if you want to write down a conclusion. The reading said this, and the listening said this, and that would be, okay? Apart from that, fantastic, dear Fabiana. Very good essay, okay? Let's go, and let's finalize with, oh no, we have two more actually. Okay, this is Miguel's essay.
Yeah, that's mine.
Okay, thank you very much. The reading extra lets up with the idea that inventors from the US and European countries are incorrectly credited for creating the modern war because all these inventions have been invented a long time ago. Okay, here I will add the transition phrase. I will expose these views a bit further. All right, sorry. Firstly, in the reading passage, it is claimed that European armies are credited for developing and creating hand fire guns. Furthermore, invention of fire guns were created in 600 years before, 600 years in this case, not necessarily this, before by China, that here was not necessary, which had cannons. Nevertheless, in the listening presentation, it is noted that Chinese inventions were not as useful at all because they needed two men to handle it. On the other hand, European guns could be handled easier just by one man. Secondly, in the reading, it is pointed out that before the Wright brothers, a Brazilian aviator had made the first flying machine in history. Fantastic. Nonetheless, this machine was a hydrogen air machine and not a plane. So it's true that the famous American Wright brothers made their first flight with a functional airplane. Fantastic as well. There's just, please go up and help me with the traditional poll as I finalize this, okay? So at the end, we can finalize the class rapidly because I have another group. So please look at your screens, and as I continue reviewing these last two essays, please help me with your kind responses, okay? And finally, in the reading, it is stated that an Iraqi person made it possible to take the first photo 1,000 years ago through a pinhole camera. Nonetheless, in the listening here, nevertheless, remember, always after a period and before a comma, right? Any connector. In the listening file, it is noted that this technology was not as useful as the camera that was created by the French Louis Daguerre, who was able to create a camera which took clear photos. Fantastic, right? So this is a great essay, dear Miguel. I think it's fantastic. How many words? Let's see. 282. 32, excuse me. Fantastic. I would say it's an incredible essay. Keep practicing, okay, dear Miguel? It's wonderful. And let's finalize with our dear Sergio. The emergence of the 19th and 20th century have made a lot of things very interesting. But taking as inventors of the following devices, when there were inventors, in this case, right, plural, when there were inventors from years and years before, who built the very same things. This is what the article talks about. All right, good. Okay, it's fine. Here I would say, right, I will explain that further, right, something like that. Firstly, remember, a connector always go before a comma, right? Firstly, goes before a comma. The airplanes made by the Wright brothers, inventors, have made a flight of 5 to 6 minutes. But what nobody takes or talks about is of the existence in this case. Talks about is of the existence of an inventor from Brazil, Santos Dumont, in this case, I guess, who made an airplane with an engine here, with an engine, and his plane, okay, flew almost 30 minutes. That was some of the greatest inventions of all times. Okay, good. Secondly, again, another connector before a comma. The camera is invention from a French photographer who claims he is the inventor, in this case, he, right? But there was an Iraq inventor from 1,000 years before who created a camera. But sadly, no soft can take photos until the French inventor. I guess nobody could take, I guess is what you meant. Nobody could take. And also the weapons, Europeans, and also the weapons. Comma, I guess here. Europeans claim, in this case claim, right, because it's plural, that they have created monster fire games and weapons for the upcoming wars. But what nobody knows is that it is that the Chinese people have created 600 years before weapons for wars that always needed 2 persons to be carried. Awesome. Finally, those are examples which show that there were inventors from other continents besides Europe and United States. Right? Very good. I think that although you have not followed the template exactly as it was showed that class, I think it's fine because you are summarizing both topics and you are certainly including the main points. 211 words. Fantastic. Anyways, I would recommend you to give it a glance one more time. Okay? Well, very good, dear students. We're going to stop here, all right? Thank you very much for your preparation and for your essays. Tomorrow, we're going to start with a new task, so please don't miss tomorrow's class. And thank you very much for your attention, okay? Have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you later.